All right, this is Groundwork. My name's Ty Rattigan, and this is a show all about ecosystem builders working at the best companies in the world. And here I'm really pleased to have Sam with me today. And Sam, we'd love to start with just learning a little bit more about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
I actually started in graphic design, of all places. That's where my degree is. And from there, I became a creative director. We actually worked mostly in billboards. And so I really got to learn about the power of a great message and refining kind of how you go to market really succinctly and clearly. But from there, I really noticed that I was more interested in how the marketers I was working with were using that message within their overall strategy. So instead of being like a small piece of it, I wanted to like understand the holistic picture. So I kind of took a step back and I actually started my own marketing consultancy doing exactly that, helping people refine their go-to-market messaging, whether it be through social media, email marketing, whatever. And I did that for about, I don't know, 3 years. Um, and then I met my husband and decided I didn't want to work for myself for a while. I wanted to enjoy the newlywed life. So I got a job at a financial services company, financial services distribution, more specifically, which was a total left turn for me. But I learned a lot about retirement, so that was helpful. And there I actually was their director of brand strategy. And same thing, kind of consulting on best practices on go to market. And we actually were, it was interesting because this is the first time I'm realizing it, but we kind of worked with reseller partners there and we helped them refine our joint value prop. And so the lines are all connecting now. And then from there, I actually moved over to PFL. So my current role, but I started as director of partnerships. And since have moved into SVP of Partnerships. And yeah, I definitely use my marketing background every single day. I have 2 marketers on my team, and then I also have a partner account manager as well. So that's the 30,000-foot view of how we got to here.
Amazing, amazing. So I want to start on joint value propositions because
Mhm.
that's something that we're going through on my team at the moment. And what I really use this show to be better at my day job, to be honest. And so, I
I'm
often send
jealous you have this
episodes.
platform.
Oh, it really makes a difference. I absolutely love it because I just ask people questions that I need the answer to. And so, one thing that we're going through on our team at the moment is trying to distill down like really clear value propositions for all of our partners,
Mhm.
but specifically our strategic partners. And when I say value proposition, I mean exactly what you said, which is joint value proposition. So,
Yep.
something that is going to resonate with their team, and our mutual prospects and customers.
Mhm.
And so, tell me more about that because I think it's tricky, and I'm really interested in hearing like your process when you were working, like helping companies define those value propositions, and then also like how you're doing that in your role today.
Totally. Yeah. Well, so I think one thing to think about is it's all a marketing message. Literally everything we're doing is selling and telling stories of one way or another. So with your joint value prop, there's 2 audiences, 3 really, but there's your partner sellers. So what's in it for them? Why do they care? How is this going to accelerate their sales cycle, make their deals bigger, help them get to market faster, whatever it is. So identifying that and articulating it for your partner sellers first and foremost. And then your second customer is the customer or your joint prospect. So what's in it for them? Again, like what are the pain points and how is your value story solving that for them?
Mm-hmm.
And then making it so simple. I think when we throw technology into the equation, it can get really complicated of like, well, the integration and the workflow and the like break it down, put it on a billboard. You have 30 seconds to like say your pitch, and if it resonates, then I think you got a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so like, what would the if you were to break it down into the steps, like tactically, like how does someone start with figuring out what that value proposition for the partner sellers should be?
Sure. Well, I'll give an example. We we can talk about this, but we really focused in on our ecosystem this year, and Salesforce is our number one priority. We've really focused on that ecosystem. So for Salesforce sellers, it's like, why do they care? What are they incentivized by? And Salesforce has a rev share, so that's helpful. They get paid on deals, so that's good. But how, again, like, what does it mean if they bring us, PFL, into the deal? Well, first of all, it means more money for them outside of just like commission, because we automate direct mail. A lot of
Hmm.
their customers are doing direct mail, but they're not talking to Salesforce about it. So we can now bring it into the Salesforce ecosystem, make their system stickier, make them more money, um, give them a reason to talk to their clients is another really big one.
Yeah.
And then add value of like, hey, you're using this channel, but you're not using it in conjunction with the rest of your tech stack. Why? Let's
Hmm.
talk about that. Um, so yeah, I think it's breaking down like what your solution does and then translating that to what does that mean to your partner sellers? How does that make a difference in their sales cycle, in their day-to-day life, in the conversations they're having with their customers?
Yeah, I love that. And it sounds like you have a really good understanding of the incentives for the partner sellers, which makes a bunch of sense. Like, is that something that they were forthcoming with, or was that something that you had to do some discovery to find out? And if so, like, how did you find it out, I guess?
Maybe a little bit of both. And I will say the number one thing I can recommend is focus, focus, focus. Because since we focused on Salesforce, we have learned so much about that ecosystem. And instead of spreading ourselves so thin and doing a little bit with a lot of partners, we've done a ton with Salesforce, and it's really proven to be successful. And now we have a really repeatable motion that we can take and put over other partnerships. But yeah, it's spending a lot of time in the field. It's building actual person-to-person relationships with these people instead of just looking at them as leads in Salesforce. Um, and it's marketing. Who is your persona? Do you know them? Do you understand what they care about?
Yeah, 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 and like when you like when you're thinking about mapping that out, like again, like the salespeople obviously are really important. Like, how did you? Because I think that that's also something that we shouldn't take as an assumption. Like, I think a lot of people are still just trying to figure out like who should that person be? Should it be the sales team? Should it be the account managers? Should it be like the marketing team? Like, who are the people that they should figure out that for? And like, how did you zoom in specifically on the sellers at your partner?
Yeah. Well, so we actually took a whole new approach to this. So, like I said, I have two marketers and I have a partner account manager on my team. And instead of focusing on our end customers, which I feel like most partner teams do, like instead of
Mhm.
attacking a target account list, we are attacking target sellers within industries of our ICP. So what I mean by that is we've verticalized in like healthcare and financial services. And we
Mm.
know that our ICP is more like enterprise customers. So who are the sellers that are talking to these customers all day long at our partners? And we need to get to know them very well. We need to be the first person or the first company they think of when direct mail comes to mind. Or if it doesn't come up, we want them to bring it up.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's matching your ICP, your company ICP, and then who at your partners is talking to that ICP on a day-to-day basis. That's how we kind of honed in on it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and I'm like already like, okay, I need to make sure that my team listen to these things. Like this is very helpful. Like one thing I think that's unique about how you're describing your team is that you have two marketers and one account manager, and I think
Yes.
like on my team I have 20 partner managers and one marketer.
Hmm.
And so like how did you decide to kind of like front load marketing resources on the team? 'Cause I think it sounds like it's really smart, to be honest, and I'm excited to hear more about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, my goal is to scale the program, and
Hmm.
you can do that by generating leads at large, not on a
Hmm.
one-to-one basis.
Hmm.
So the other thing we do that's different is we don't touch the end customer. My partner team doesn't. So we are running marketing campaigns specifically to partner sellers. And that's
Mm-hmm.
everything from nurture streams to ads to outreach sequences. We're running like spiffs, like all of that is focused solely on partner sellers. The reason being now, I also brought, he's amazing. His name's Alex Dayton, but he was a senior BDR. They were about to move him into an AE role, and I said, come to the dark side. So he came over and is now on the partner side. And having like a hungry hunter on your team is imperative. So
Mm.
his whole thing is he's out there making relationships with our partner sellers, and like that's our play is,
Yeah.
hey, partner seller, here's our value prop. Now, who in your book of business does this make sense for? Let's talk about that. Let's make a joint plan instead of being like, all right, we want to go after Google. Who at the partner owns Google? All right, now let's jam a square hole or a square peg into a round
Yeah.
hole. We're letting the partner sellers find the opportunities for us.
It's very smart because the reality is that, like, literally, there was a thread about this in partnership leaders yesterday. But I've never seen success with the latter that you're describing. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
it's like going and asking a partner for an introduction to a customer. I've never seen any success with it. Like,
Yep.
all I've seen is like, hey, we've enabled a partner's team, and then like when a customer comes to them and says, hey, like I'm looking for a recommendation for this specific thing, they'll go, oh yeah, I remember like Amplitude, like Optimize, like Deal,
Right.
they're great for that, and I'm almost like, hey, there's lots of other people, have they figured this thing out and I just haven't figured it out? But like what I'm hearing from you is like you've actually really leaned into that and like optimized for that, and like which it makes a ton of sense, to be
Yeah.
honest. It's a great playbook.
Well, thank you. And I will say too, the other thing that we've done as a game changer is we have taken in our Salesforce actual instance, we've built a tracking system for our partner
Mm-hmm.
sellers.
Mm-hmm.
So I have every partner seller in our sales system or Salesforce, and we now know we have an actual sales cycle for them. So we know how engaged they are with us. We know how many intros each person's given us. We know what industry they're in. And now we have a funnel to market to them. So we know
Wow.
these people are brand new to the ecosystem. They still need more nurture and enablement. These people are our pals. We should be like retaining them. They're current
Huh.
customers, for lack of better term. And so the tracking of that has been the best thing and the coolest thing. I'm so pumped about it.
That's fascinating. And do you use the contact object for that, or like what do you use in Salesforce for that?
Yes. And then we also have, it's a relationship object. And so we can attach, so when a partner seller intros us to a customer, we can attach that intro to an opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
you introduce us to the decision maker at Google. We track that, it's now partner sourced, and we create an opportunity right from there that goes directly into our sales team's
Yeah.
funnel.
It sounded like when you were describing that you almost have like stages for the person, that
Yes.
like the part, like, and so is that like on a contact record that you then say, okay, this person's onboarding or this person's like active, or like I'm interested in I've never heard of this concept before, and again it's like I'm really excited about it, to be honest.
Me
It
too.
sounds like absolute genius. Yeah, so like how are you doing that?
It's the relationship object. So
Okay.
on the contact, we created a relationship object. If we
Uh-huh.
have a partner relationship with this contact, and then yes, there is an actual like cycle that they go through.
Huh. Amazing. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that it's super smart because like ultimately these relationships are they it's make or break based on a champion or like a handful of champions in accounts rather than a company, right? It's like if
100%.
you're yeah, so it's
Business
very
is done
smart.
person to person.
Yeah. I really like that. Yeah, I'm going to borrow that and also some of this other stuff already,
Deal.
if you don't mind. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, this is fascinating stuff. And so then, so you're like, what I'm hearing is this like deep relationship and understanding with the person on the partner side that you're looking to incentivize, and then
Hmm.
like also formulating a great value prop for the end customer as well. And I would love to understand that a little bit. So like, because I guess there has to be a flavor that is going to make sense to the partner sales rep and also is going to make a bunch of sense to their end customer. And like, is that like, for if we take healthcare for instance, or whatever segment it is that like a one page you give them, or like what does that look like, I guess?
It's both. So I think this is another thing we've learned. Well, it's both and we'll say that. And this is why having marketing support is so crucial because being a marketer myself, I've always been like, well, I'll just do it myself. And then I could like never actually do the job because I was always creating content. Um, so we've done everything. So we have content suites for each industry we serve. And that
Mm.
means like there's a landing page to go see more case studies because case studies are king. Like, how can we say, here's what we're doing with other customers? Ghost emails of like how to bring us into deals. So the partner seller, it's like, yeah, this person's interested in direct mail, but I don't really know how to talk about it. No worries, we made it simple for you. Yes, one pagers, yes, enablement sessions. Um, and then the other thing I think that marketing is really crucial on, this is not a one and done thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
have to stay top of mind with these sellers, especially like at Salesforce. I don't even know, thousands upon thousands of sellers. So for us to like expect to manage that on a one-to-one basis is crazy. We have to have marketing support to bring that top of mind always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. And then the last step you said was like putting it on a billboard and kind of testing it out. Is there like, do you just kind of get it out in the wild and see what sticks with a partner or with like a specific segment, or like how does that look?
Yeah. So I'll just, here's a moment of transparency. Um, we expanded into healthcare this year, and that was very much an initiative of partners. Like that was not
Yeah.
a company-wide initiative. We kind of led the charge there. I know nothing about healthcare. So literally it was me like at conferences being like, so what you guys talking about? And then like trying to just like figure out, okay, I think direct mail could be a good use case there, maybe there. So it was a lot of like trial and error really. And then it's like constant refining. It's like, okay, here's what
Mhm.
I've learned in the field. Let's refine our message to be more articulate there. Um, yeah, so it's again, that's not a one and done either. That's always going to change.
Yeah, okay. I love that. I'm writing that framework down. I took a bunch of notes as we were talking and I'm gonna imprint it on my brain and use that. I'm really
Yeah,
excited
don't be
about that.
afraid to be a loser. It's something you know
Yeah.
nothing about. That's my
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely not afraid to be a loser. That's got me far enough. And so, like something I'd love, because I think there are people in partnerships that come from a marketing background. Actually, I came from a marketing background as well, and I do think there's a lot of benefits to that. Like from seeing the big picture a lot of the time, and like really understanding, like. And I almost feel like it's a dirty word because it's thrown around so much, but like marketers have to have to think about the ecosystem that the customer exists within. And I
Totally.
think if you come up from a sales background, like you can learn to do that, but most of the time it's pretty like a myopic, like one-to-one
Yes.
engagement that you have with the customer, unless you're like really an elite level like salesperson. And so like getting a marketing person on here today, and knowing that partnerships very often has a lot of friction with the marketing team.
Mhm.
I'm interested in talking to you a little bit about what's your hypothesis on why there's friction with the marketing team and the partnerships team very often, and also maybe unpacking after that like how we can kind of get over some of that stuff.
Yeah, that's the golden question. Um, well, I think so when I came into this role, it was traditional. Like we had marketing, there was not really a partner marketing motion. And we all had the same goals, but we were going about them a different way. So it looked like we were a constraint on resources for just like
Hmm.
this thing over there, i.e., partnerships. Um, and so that's why I think this approach we've taken now is really awesome because my marketing function is focused on partner sellers. marketing as a whole is focused on customers, but they
Mm-hmm.
all equal pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can we support that together? And then I think it's like the other thing too is aligning our ICP. So our ICP is our partners' customers, point blank. So marketing is going after these people. We're going after the partner sellers, and it's just making sure we're in alignment and never in conflict.
Yeah.
And if you are in conflict, there's probably a way to spin that story so it doesn't look like it. So messaging again.
Yeah, yeah, and like so one of the things that I've run into myself, like well, two things I'm interested to talk to you about on this one. One is just the business is like, hey, was this partner sourced or was this marketing sourced?
Yeah.
You know, and like and I think even with the fortunately at Deal, I work with an amazing marketing leader, Melton, and you know, like because I'm not fussed about the binary attribution on that kind of stuff, to be honest. Like, don't get me wrong, like my team's measured on sourced revenue, and also like my success thus is measured by sourced revenue, but also like I know that there's you know, there's more to it than that. Unfortunately, I have a great partner on the marketing side as well, and there is almost, well, there isn't any friction, which is like the first for me in the
Mm-hmm.
last 10 plus years of working in partnerships. But it does feel like you're kind of put at odds with the marketing team, not because it's like, hey, which channel's performing better, because unless you're a bit of an idiot, like that shouldn't bother you too much, but more so like, no, that was a marketing opportunity, or you know, like that
Right.
was a partnerships opportunity, not a marketing opportunity. And it's almost like zero sum when
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at sourced attribution, or you're looking at like single touch attribution or whatever. So like I'm interested to hear your perspective on that, and like any recommendations for people listening on how to approach that kind of attribution friction.
Totally. Yeah, it's a huge problem for many, many partner programs. So I think the main thing, if you have the ability to do this and you have an ear of leadership, is make sure that everybody in the organization has aligned metrics and that nobody's in conflict, like I said. So one place that we really found conflict was with our BDRs because we were all
Mm-hmm.
going after SQLs. And if a BDR owned an account, but we sourced it, then it was like, well, that's my account. And it's like, well, there's been no activity on it, so it's
Yeah.
not. Um, so there's going to be conflict, but what we've like, so make sure there's no conflict in the metrics, which can be harder to do than said, but then also just make, I think the most underutilized skill of partner professionals is we're all very good networkers. That's literally what we do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Go do that internally. Make best friends with all of your marketers and your sellers, and like just be a friend and make it very clear you're there to help. You're not there to
Mm-hmm.
steal. So that would be one. And then in terms of like, draw the line in the sand. If there's a partner attached, then it's partner influenced or partner sourced. Like, make sure your rules are really clear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it's a marketing, like if it's a partner, sorry, a marketing webinar with a partner hosted, then that's partner attached. Like, so I think it's drawing really clear lines, and sometimes people aren't going to like that, but that's the only way to really make it cut and dry if that's your goal.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I like that. Just like having a bunch of clarity, especially if it's mutually agreed upon, and then like a lot of the friction comes in the gray area, I think, of people
Exactly.
not
Yes.
wanting to have the conflict, even if it's short lived. The other area I think that there's friction, and I've talked about this on the show a few times, is I think partnerships are particularly, it's very unique as a function because you spend so much time out of the business. You know,
Hmm.
like you spend so much time with other companies that are complementary to what you do, and they fit into your customer workflow and into your customer challenge set. And so just naturally, you develop a much better understanding of the customer problem
Yeah.
than anyone else in the business, you know. And I don't think anyone really recognizes that, but it's subjectively true. You know, it's impossible for anyone else to understand like the full customer workflow, and even better than the customer, I think, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. And so like it's then really challenging, I think, for someone to kind of sit on their hands and like and not say, hey, look, like we're messaging this thing like this, but actually like the way that it fits into the customer experience is more like this and this. But and so like people don't want to sit on their hands, but then also like telling a marketing team whose job it is to like message and brand and understand this stuff how to do their job, or at least like even approaching it in a way where like, hey, I have an opinion on this. I've had like very strong defensive responses in the past,
Yeah.
like almost like, hey, this is my territory, like don't come in type thing. And so I'm really interested, like I do think that creates a bunch of friction, and I do think there's a bunch of partnerships people that aren't uh they're not innocent in the situation as well, where they are just like trying to say, hey, like
You're doing
do
it
this.
wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm trying to figure out like what's the best way to like find a middle ground where it's like, hey, like there is more to the world than what we perceive in our windows and doors of the company, and then also at the same time like, hey, don't come across as a know-it-all dick, basically. You know, like
Yeah.
there's a middle ground, and I haven't found it, like if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean that's my advice. Don't be a dick. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
Again, I
trying.
think, yeah, come on. I think it comes back to that internal network again too. Like,
Uh-huh.
and um, I talk about this a lot with peers, but it's so interesting, like that partnerships. I mean, they typically report to marketing or revenue or product, and wherever you report, it definitely dictates kind of how you're measured. But I do think that by putting partnerships in one of those buckets, you're not realizing the full potential of what a partnership program can do for you. Um, so I report to the CEO, which if you can make that happen, do it, because then your metrics are across the
Mm-hmm.
board and it's so helpful. Um, but then that also gives you the ability to make these cross-functional relationships and it doesn't look like you're quote unquote crossing the line. And I think you can add a lot of value to your organization by helping de-silo. Because if marketing is siloed from revenue, which is siloed from CS, like that's a bigger problem than just partnerships. So if you can help kind of build those bridges and help, okay, I'm on the front lines with sales, and here's what we're hearing, and
Mm-hmm.
our marketing message isn't necessarily articulate to this point. Can we look at some ways to fill that gap? Or whatever. Like if you hear in the field, like, hey, I heard this use case at this conference, and I think it would be a really awesome thing for us to look at. How can we work together to like fill that gap?
Yeah.
So having a really collaborative approach, and then again, just building relationships with people internally.
Yeah. Okay. I absolutely love that. Yeah. I think we've all got a lot of work to do there. So I know that you're doing a great job in the Salesforce ecosystem, and I am obsessed with how the Salesforce ecosystem works, to be honest. Anytime that anyone comes on here and has even like had a sniff at Salesforce, I end up spending all of our time on it. And so that's why I've left it until last. But obviously we've touched upon a few points of how you're navigating the ecosystem already, but I would love to just start with like coming fresh into the ecosystem. Like what were your impressions of like what Salesforce does uniquely, does well, does badly? Like I'd love just kind of like cliff notes on their partner program to start with.
Sure. Well, so in full transparency, I took over the partnership and it was pretty mature. I mean, we'd been in the ecosystem, I think, 6 years. And there were ebbs and flows of maturity there. But Yava Roberts, if you don't know her, she's like a rock star and she built the foundation of this program. And then my former boss Marnie Reed left, and so Salesforce fell in my lap. And truthfully, my first impression was like, damn it, this is gonna suck. Because the perception I had of Salesforce was like, you check these boxes and then you can be a partner, and there's no like creativity or collaboration at all within the ecosystem.
Mhm.
And I have since proved myself 5,000% wrong with that statement. And so, in doing so, first of all, I have a phenomenal partner account manager over at Salesforce, like truly the definition of partnership there.
Mm.
Um, and the interesting thing about the ecosystem, we're a horizontal partner, meaning we serve all industries. And that hasn't really served us well, because that's like saying, we deliver water. And people are like,
Yeah.
cool. What do I do with that? Like, I don't, and again, it comes back to messaging. So we've really learned in collaboration with our partner account managers, like, let's find those pockets of influence within each industry and really articulate our message and use cases of what it means for them. So another example is, I went to that healthcare conference and made a total idiot of myself. Someone came up to our booth and was like, what do you guys do? And I was like, oh, we automate direct mail. And she was like, okay. And I was like, I don't really know how to make that more clear for you. Like, what? And then I got started talking to her, and I was like, she was like, oh, well, we have a bunch of patients who will never use the internet. And I was like, that's it. We help those patients become engaged with your brand. So again, it's like just blanketing the market with a general message isn't going to work. And so we've
Yeah.
really leaned into like industry experts at Salesforce and utilizing our PAM, not being afraid to ask stupid questions, and then like use LinkedIn and be like, here's the AVP of Marketing Cloud. Can you introduce me?
Mhm.
Using that network and org chart to your benefit is going to be so helpful.
Yeah, amazing. And I think having that super strong PAM relationship is amazing, and I'm sure that takes work. I'm really interested. Like, what is it about that relationship that's working so well, and like how did that happen? I guess because I think that's probably like make or break again for a lot of people in these big programs.
100%, 100%. And I think it wasn't always, it's never been bad, but it wasn't always like it is now. And I think what really kicked it off was I was her student. Anything she said to do, I did it. And then I came
Hmm.
back and I'm like, all right, you told me to email this list. I did it. Here's what happened. Um, and just like anything, the more I started to do that, I started to have ideas too. And then I'd bring them back to her, and she was like, oh, that's genius. Do you mind if I share that with my other partners? And so there's a joint value in this relationship for us too. Like, I'm she's helping me to like navigate the org chart and find specific use cases, and I'm coming back to her with, here's what I'm hearing in the market, here's what's working from a partner's perspective, potentially this could help your other partners. And so it's really just like a give and take and a give and take between the two of us. And so sometimes your PAMs, they say things and you're like, well, that's not going to work. Do it anyway.
Hmm.
Do it
Uh-huh.
anyway.
Yeah, it's smart. Yeah, just follow the process and do. I think that's smart. Like it being one thing we say at Deal, like on the partner team, is like the easiest way to win is to be the best partner to work with. You know,
100%.
like if you're enjoyable to work with, that's like 95% of it. And like you can figure out the rest of it. Like provided that you've got the ICP fit and everything, but like most of the time, it's like just just be easy to work with. And so if they're asking you to do something and you're doing it, you're probably already better than like 90% of their partners.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super duper smart. And you mentioned like asking for like working the org chart and asking for introductions into key people in the business. I imagine you have to earn the right to ask for those kinds of introductions. Like what for a PAM at Salesforce, like what's the motivation on their side, and like also how do you get to a point where you've earned enough relationship equity where you can start cashing some of it in and asking for these types of big introductions? Because I'm assuming someone couldn't just start with Salesforce tomorrow and say, hey, introduce me to the
To
EVP
Benioff.
or yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, well, I think it's twofold. So it's building trust, and that's kind of what we just talked about. It's leaning into the relationship and really, proving value. The other thing that we've done and found really a lot of success with was like boots on the ground, trying to build those relationships ourselves.
Hmm.
So like LinkedIn is your friend. Like find those people. Don't be afraid to reach out. And then every once in a while, someone will pay attention.
Yeah,
And then I come back to my Pam and I'm like, hey, we got a meeting with this person. And she's like, what? How?
smart.
Can you introduce me? Because here's the thing in Salesforce, not everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. And then I think if that hasn't happened, be very, very articulate with your ask of like, I want to meet this person because I have these 10 accounts that fall into their patch. I'm going to provide this much ACV for them. ACV is king. Um, and here's why I think this introduction is going to be really helpful. So, and take out all the guesswork for your PAM and like literally write an email that they can put their name on and forward as an intro. We've seen a ton of success with that.
That's smart. And you mentioned ACV, like the so for these sellers, like is it enough for them to like position and sell your product and capture and like get the quota retirement on that, or do you need to kind of send a bunch of business there? Like for instance, in the Amazon program, it's like unless you're like uploading leads and like really getting in front of the sellers that way, you're basically never going to get anywhere. Is that a similar situation in Salesforce, or can you just start by being an awesome solution to a customer problem?
Both. I think it's both. So if you're a unique partner in the ecosystem and you don't have a lot of like, you solve a very niche space that's gets attention. But then
Hmm.
like another example is we went into healthcare and we were talking about our pricing and they were like, cute. And we kind of learned like, oh, based on this industry, it might make sense for us as a company to like look at our pricing.
Hmm.
So for like B2B marketing is probably different than enterprise healthcare. And how are we like articulating that? And so per your question earlier about marketing, that's another thing I came back to the business with and was like, hey, sales leader, I am hearing in the market that we may not have our pricing structure correct. Um, and we've since kind of relooked at it.
Mm.
But yeah, so that's like a seller's not a seller, I guess is my point. So
Yeah.
that goes back to knowing your persona. A healthcare seller is going to require more ACV than an SMB B2B marketer.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting. And so like that relationship that you then have with the healthcare salesperson, for instance, do you then does that become like one of your champions that you're tracking in Salesforce, or
Absolutely.
like yeah, that those are the contacts that you're then kind of nurturing and managing?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
And then the
yeah.
beautiful thing about Salesforce is, well, I don't know if it's beautiful, it's actually quite annoying, but they do their carve every year, so everybody gets the account shuffle. But if you look at that, that's an opportunity because all these relationships you've built last year now have a new book of business.
Mm.
And so it's a great opportunity for you to start over and say, okay, how can we help you? You have new accounts. Do they need direct mail?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's awesome. And I guess yeah, because your existing accounts, then if they're getting shuffled to someone else, it's like you can
Have to start all over.
yeah, 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 yeah. I can understand why that would be a double-edged sword. Okay, well, I know that we're running out of time, which is so sad. And so I wanted to ask you our final question, which is there something that you've learned recently that you'd like to share with everyone listening today?
Um, we kind of touched on this, but maybe I didn't like articulate this as well. Again, this like tracking system we built this year has changed the game for us because it's not only helped me like be able to forecast for our partnership program and what we're going to bring to the business, but it's also helped me show value and attribution to the business
Hmm.
in ways like here's how we're doing to support marketing. Here's how we're supporting our CS team. here's how we're bringing new ideas to our product roadmap. So articulating that and having a system around measuring it, I cannot speak enough about that. And we are continually refining that. But that's been something I've been really focused on lately, and I'm learning new things about it every single day, honestly.
Yeah, I honestly think that attribution is the biggest challenge for every partnership leader,
Yeah.
and like the getting that stuff solved is absolutely mission critical. And so many people are still just like a text field on an opportunity in Salesforce, or like just using the lead source field in Salesforce, and that's like their whole business,
Yeah, or
and
like
it's
looking at pipeline at the end of the quarter and being like backtracking of like that one, that one, that one, that one.
yeah,
And yeah, it's a disaster. So
yeah.
get ahead of it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Well, Sam, thank you so much. I have to say, I think this is one of the best episodes that we've ever done. And I wish that I could spend another 5 hours with you on this stuff, to be
Call me
honest. It's been,
anytime.
yeah, I really, I really will take you up on that. And I wish that we could edit this thing faster because I can't wait to get it out. But I also want to get it to my team as soon as possible and just be like, these things are very important. Like, we have to do this stuff. So thank you so much from me and my team, and also the people that are going to listen to this as well, because this is hugely valuable and we really appreciate the time.
Well, my pleasure. Loved the conversation and looking forward to chatting more eventually.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Bye bye.